last day of primary school, I cried a lot. It might have been year 7, and I might have been a full 12 years old, but I was also an audio counsellor, and I was only about 4.5 feet tall. So I stood there on the threadbare blue carpet, and I cried without shame. Me and the other nerds had just gone to say goodbye to the school registrar. So I was standing in a group of about 6 or 7 friends with our arms around each other, crying like some kind of weird 4-foot fairy circle. When Miss MB, who had been my somewhat intimidating year 2 teacher, came out to see what all the fuss was about. And she comes over, and she's serious but sympathetic, and she says that she has absolutely no idea why we're crying, because it's the last day of primary school and the world is full of opportunities, and we've got absolutely no idea of how many things are out there waiting for us. And one day we would look back on that day and wonder why we were crying at all. So bucked up by this, we got the courage to go down to Mason's Gardens and drink soft drink with the boys. And it was the boys I was worried about missing, to be honest. I was headed for MLC, destined to never play King of the Pack in my school uniform again. And most of my friends were going to Hollywood High. I was particularly worried about missing my friend Tim, because we already had kind of ideas that we might be on slightly different paths at that time. We didn't really hang out that much at school. He wasn't so much one for the library and the audio counsellor activities, and he didn't even like soccer. I remember one time when we were playing our daily soccer game, he just declared, "I want to play rugby," and picked up the ball and ran through a crowd of people. But I used to go to after-school care every single day, and he used to ride his bike back to school from home after school and sit on the steps coming down to the bottom oval, where we used to play Tarzos and Pogs when we were younger, but now we just sat there and talked. And sometimes he'd come with his brothers and their friends and could do laps around the oval, and I thought it was pretty cool that he peeled off from the crowd when I came out of the arts room. One time, he even ventured down close enough to sit on the wooden climbing structure made out of logs. Most of them have been taken down now, I think largely for public safety reasons. And he's sitting up at the top, and I'm kind of trying to climb up cool, but my hands are too small to grip onto the logs. So I'm kind of trying to climb like this, like. So I get all the way up. I think it was maybe 50 metres high. And I swing my legs over, feigning nonchalance, and he turns around in his already kind of quite deep prepubescent voice and says, "Yeah, well, did you bring any of the afternoon tea up?" And we talk. We talk about friends, school, family, comedy. I wasn't even allowed to watch The Simpsons at that age, and he once did an entire skit of Jimon before he told me that he didn't write those jokes himself. And we talk a lot about, what we're going to get up to at high school. So despite the tears in the playground earlier, the summer of 1999 really started fueled with anticipation. I feel quite jealous at a sleepover at my friend Mia's house, sitting together, all of us, over one phone with Tim and Keegan on a conference call at the other end while they talked about what they were going to get up to at Hollywood. So, we were fueled by anticipation, sugar, and all-night conference calls. And then on Boxing Day, my parents get a phone call from someone, I don't know. It leads to a quiet conference in their room, but I pay no attention because I'm down in my room playing Lemmings and listening to Powderfinger. And then they call me up to the good sitting room. And they both sit down, my parents, my dad, and my mum. And my mum reaches out, and she takes my hand. And I'm sitting there, and I'm starting to feel a bit sweaty, with my shorts on the red leather couch. And she says, "That was one of the other mums on the phone. There was an accident down at the river yesterday, and Tim drowned." And my entire world zooms down onto her face. She keeps talking, saying something, I don't know what it is. And there's one question that I want to ask. And I say, "Drowned? Like dead drowned?" Mum nods. I stumble out of the room. I go to the kitchen where the phone is. It's at the end of the bench next to a yellow deck chair. I don't sit down in the yellow deck chair. I just get the phone and I dial, by memory, the number of my mate Nikki's. And I get her older sister, Pippa, who's in my sister's year, and it takes a couple of seconds, but I get Nikki on the phone, and I hold it together for just long enough to tell her that it's me, and then I'm calling about Tim, and then it just comes out of my mouth. He's dead, Tim. He's dead, Nikki. Tim's dead. And then my mum comes and takes the phone out of my hand, and I go and I lie face down on the sofa, and I howl for God knows how long. And I don't remember anything from the intervening week. But the funeral is on New Year's Eve. And it's at Karrakatta Cemetery, just around the corner from my house. And all of the kids from school are there. And we're all wearing colours, because that's what you do at a kid's funeral. And all the boys are wearing their best Vans and etnies. And I see their tear-stained faces at the front row. And Tim's family are wearing black. And Tim is cremated. And after that, we go out to the memorial garden and we write farewell messages to Tim on red helium balloons that we release up into the sky, because that's what you used to do at kids' funerals. And the farewell song was Puff Daddy's farewell song to Biggie, which I don't think you do at kids' funerals normally. And then my mum and dad took me quietly home. And I formed a bit of a routine for the rest of those summer holidays. I went for a walk with my mum or my dad, or both. I hung out with my little brother and my big sister. Sometimes I went to the movies down the street where I could get a popcorn, a choc top and a movie ticket for less than 2 weeks' allowance. But every day, I rode my bike around Karrakatta Cemetery. It was beautiful and calm, and I saw all of it because I cycled around all of those memorial gardens looking for a plaque or a seat or something that would show a sign of Tim there. And once I was there, I realised that Tim's older brother and his mates had done a huge graffiti memorial piece on one of the industrial sites near the cemetery, but I never ran into them. I was always alone. But I talked to Tim while I cycled around. And then high school started, and there was no after-school care because I learnt how to catch the bus and I didn't have to wait for anyone to pick me up. And I made friends, and life moved on. And I'm invited back to Netherlands to give a memorial speech at the unveiling of a memorial to Tim. And I get given a little platform because I'm still a little person. So I stand on a little platform and I give my little speech. And I look out at the crowd. And without Tim's year there, it's not the kids that are crying this time. It's the teachers, including Miss MB. And when I look back on it, Miss MB was 100% right. We had no idea what kind of great things were coming around the corner, the opportunities or the excitements that life would bring. But I also know that we were 100% right to cry.